5:30. Everybody's here. Let's kick this off. All right. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for today's webinar. My name is Wyatt Nosky and I'm the co-founder and chief executive officer at Boost Innovation Company. Boost's mission is to provide expert advice to the next generation of entrepreneurs and innovators at an unparalleled value. For a very limited time, find select advisors in your industry free of charge. Today we are presenting Technological Disruptions, presented by Sue Hall, Emmanuel Alegbeyele, Nick Cherukuri, and David Harvey. This webinar will be moderated by Jason Dodier. Jason earned his MBA from Georgetown University. He is a Boost Innovation Company advisor as well as an international business professional at AlphaStruxure and the co-founder of Fountainhead RI. Jason has lived all over the world and is active in the energy, entrepreneurship, and nonprofit industries. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel. Jason will bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for questions at the end. Jason, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Wyatt. Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon, and wherever you are in the world, listening in, tuning in. Grateful to be here and supporting what Boost Innovation Company's been doing lately. As Heather Simmons said, right, those who disrupt their industries, change consumer behavior, alter economics, and transform lives. And that's exactly what some of our panelists have been doing over the years that are part of this discussion today. It's with pleasure that I'm going to provide a quick overview on each panelist, and then we will kick off the discussion. To start and begin with, we have Nick Cherukuri. He is a leading subject matter expert in augmented and mixed reality with strong expertise and education in this space, and has a multitude of published patents. He has very strong experience in product development, which has involved research for advanced augmented reality systems for the defense and commercial applications. He's been a speaker, problem solver, analysis, and is currently the founder and CEO of ThirdEye. And since its founding, he has taken part in a variety of panel discussions across the country, working at various trade shows and other events. We're very lucky and happy to have Nick with us this evening. In addition, we have Emmanuel Alegbeyele. Emmanuel brings with him an extensive amount of experience in the construction and startup industry. He has been a part of 3 successful startups, 5 successful businesses, and a successful exit at a purchase price of $75 million. Currently, Emmanuel is the founder and chief executive officer of the Uttrly Group, an innovative company adding a technological element to the traditional construction industry. He is also, as I've learned recently, an elite track and field athlete, and in his free time enjoys working on his athletic craft as well as reading and mentoring others. I can't emphasize enough how important this is in your free time to have these kind of things you do to constantly reflect and look forward at how you can innovate and make things different in your industry. Third panelist that is going to be joining us is Sue Hall. Sue co-founded Millennium Engineering Integration Company and was instrumental in establishing, promoting, and improving the company's systems and engineering processes. While at Millennium, Ms. Hall served as the Chief Operating Officer, carrying out a variety of corporate initiatives and efforts. She started her career as an Air Force officer and has had an extensive career as a systems engineer on a variety of space and missile defense programs in the disciplines of integration and test, program management, and safety and mission assurance. Happy to have you here, Sue, and I'm looking forward to the discussion, especially around some of the things you're doing in a space race, as we've talked about together. And last but certainly not least, David Harvey. He has extensive experience in the financial services industry. During this time period, he has seen technical disruptions in product development and new market penetration. David currently works as the executive vice president and partner at WorkCentric.com. He has worked with numerous tech companies and has implemented his skills in strategy, sales, partnerships, business development, and operational roles throughout all of those endeavors. And with that said, let's kick off this evening and transition to our first question, which essentially is, how have each of you used technology to disrupt a previously traditional market? And I'd like to begin with Sue. That's okay.
Sure. So I started out my career in the Air Force, and we were doing, at the time, it was the Strategic Defense Initiatives, or our program. And what we saw happening then was the miniaturization of between electronics and search and even propulsion systems. So we were miniaturizing these things to be able to use them, for the Department of Defense. And between electronics and computer miniaturization and software, these things have, just grown leaps and bounds, kind of, so to speak, in enabling us to do some of these, the missile defense type things. And we saw was that not only was it happening in missile defense, but the electronics miniaturization was then going into a lot of satellite programs. So we were there at the very beginning, during my career anyway, where we saw the capability of these satellites being able to become smaller and smaller and smaller. And so that's where we've gotten today, where we've got this, just a watershed of space commercialization and satellite commercialization, where they can put up so many of these small sats. So that was, we were at that technology when I was able to start my career, and I've been able to see it, to come to what it is now, where SpaceX is, launching whole constellations of small sats, as well as a lot of different companies. So mostly in like I said, the electronics, computer miniaturization, and we see it happen in the satellite industry.
Oh, thank you, Sue, for that. Extremely apparent from what we're seeing across mainstream media. Emmanuel, maybe over to you on that same question.
So my team and I have used technology to disrupt the construction industry by trying to figure out a way to rethink the process, the archaic process that's currently going on in the construction world, and try to make it more transparent, easy, and seamless to the average homeowner, right, who doesn't constantly deal with the construction process on a day-to-day basis. So what we've done was figure out a way to create a system where clients can kind of come in through a portal, have a transparent way of seeing what happens before your project starts, after your project starts, and get a one-stop shop experience on dealing with the person or the contractor delivering the services. So what we've done there is try to figure out how to utilize the current technology available now. And when we first started, actually, as a team, it was around the same era when Uber first launched, and we were like, wow, this is such a great idea. Like, it would be so awesome to see when, your contractors come to your house, when the job gets done, get a finished look at what's going on. And we thought to ourselves, man, like, there's gotta be a way to make this happen so that the average homeowner can kind of get that same experience when it comes to like some of their biggest and largest investment, which is their homes. That's how we started Uttrly, and Uttrly has become that one-stop shop where clients can then say, hey, I need XYZ done in my home, and have that a la carte type experience where they can pick and choose what they want, understand how they're being priced, and make sure that the quality that they're expecting is what's being delivered.
Thanks for that. Thanks for the overview, Emmanuel. And certainly, depending on the community of folks that are attending, I just want to state all these points. While they are in certainly different verticals, you can see the horizontal aspect and role that is being played there. And we will continue to build upon the themes Emmanuel and Sue have discussed. Nick, say again to you in your vertical in AR/MR, what would you say to that, the question on disruption in a previously traditional market that you're playing in?
Sure. So in augmented reality, mixed reality, we make smart glasses, and I brought a pair just for this webinar. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to target any industry with field workers or remote workers. So roughly 80% of the global workforce uses their hands while they work. And what smart glasses enable you to do is to be hands-free while you work. So a frontline medic, a frontline technician, they can continue getting digital information displayed live in their field of, but they can hands-free and they can still continue working with their hands. So we're really targeting any industry that uses phones, tablets, laptops, and that has frontline workers. And we're trying to bring augmented reality and the ability to be hands-free and still get whatever digital information you need displayed live in your field of view. And we're seeing a tremendous ROI there for companies. It's improving worker safety, worker efficiency, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. So we're really targeting any industry that has frontline workers at the moment.
Thank you for doing that, Nick. I mean, more than ever now in industries, we're trying to move away from touch any way possible and enhance the safety of folks that are trying to do their job. So very interesting technology that you're doing and continue to develop. I'm curious to hear more about it as we progress. And I guess rounding out for the first question of the panel, David Harvey, over to you perhaps for your insights.
Sure, thank you. And first of all, thanks for putting all of this together, Wyatt, and Jason, thanks for leading it. It's a pleasure to sit on a panel where people are actually genuinely disrupting things. I've been around more than most of you, I think. And a lot of times when we say disruption and we repeat this mantra, we're being disruptive. In reality, what's happening is you're just moving something online. And it's not disruptive as much as it is routing around another institution that's already there. But when you're dealing with brand new ways of doing things and ways of reimagining businesses, that's disruptive. That also happens to be valuable. You get a 5x multiple if you're just moving something online. You get a 12x multiple if it's brand new. So there's a reason we shoot for genuine disruption. As to what I'm doing now, it's underwriting insurance. We do a lot of things, but the disruptive part is, rather than just like a lot of portals have done, move that experience of buying insurance online and allowing you to reach out to different markets and bring quotes in and then find it. What we say is, you know what? The way people have been underwriting for years is wrong. It's not just based off of your historical losses. It's not just based off of the job that a person does, whether it's construction like Emmanuel works with, or somebody that's an engineer like Sue works with. Those class codes matter in terms of how you pick a price. What matters more are things like the actual environment that you work in, the actual economic situation that your workers are in. It matters whether it's raining or not for slip and fall claims. It matters a whole lot whether you're fit like Emmanuel is or you're less than fit like I am. Those things spill over into workers' compensation underwriting, right? And there's a whole constellation of public health data that we pull in to produce a quote that's actually more intelligent and more fair and automated, right? And so building all of that architecture is where we are and what we're doing.
Well, thanks for that, David. And I think you made some great points, right? The 12x multiple and things that are brand new and keys to what it takes to genuine disruption, right? The environment you work in, the economic situation. And when we think about the next question I want to pose, I think it's best maybe we go in reverse order, David, because you brought these points up. When you think about the most challenging part of introducing a technology into a traditional industry, which you've got immense experience there, what would you say to that? Maybe you can highlight something directly from what you were just talking about, one of those elements.
Sure. I think one of the things that, particularly in fintech, particularly in insurance and benefits, these areas that are not really run by millennials, they're run by boomers, they're run by people, my age or older, is that there's an entrenched distribution system there. It's brokers, it's accountants, it's people who have been handling the intimate affairs of other people for a very long time, and getting these people to accept a new way of distributing business, to think of a new way of underwriting, to think of a new way of providing benefits to their workers. That's hard. That's really hard. And so, you can be gung-ho about distribution and your product and what you're able to deliver and the price point and all of the brains and AI that go into it. But guess what? If you don't convince the 50-year-old person who controls all of that business, it doesn't go anywhere. And you have to make it understandable for them, and you have to make it non-threatening for them. And frequently, you have to cut them in and pay them a little bit. So our commission rates reflect the fact that we're going to have brokers involved for the foreseeable future. That's just the model.
Talk about non-threatening, right? It's a very important point as we look at and continue to evolve and there's new technology. So if I go over to Nick for a second, think about what he's doing on AR and MR. We've heard about a lot of companies that are trying to revolutionize the way we work and might displace jobs or existing products or services that are out there, right? So, on your side, it's almost a demographic that might be fearful of some of this stuff, or that's intrinsically there and been in these positions for a long time. Nick, to you, in what you're rolling out in your business, where do you see some of those threats and challenges as you move forward with this advanced technology? And you showed us a little bit. I wish we could all try the glasses on and see them in real time, but maybe talk us through that.
Definitely, and I would echo a lot of what David said. Those are really excellent points. And for technology like smart glasses, where it's not just software, it's also hardware. It's something you wear on your face. And if you walk around the street, for example, if I saw someone walk around the street wearing smart glasses before I knew what smart glasses were, I would be really concerned about privacy issues, for example. So I think for smart glasses, we're seeing three major barriers to entry right now. One is marketing, so the ability to market the product in an understandable manner, ability to show that not going to have privacy issues and that it's easy to learn. And a lot of people are reticent, especially the older generation, they're reticent of using new technology. It's another piece of equipment that you have to learn, and it's something else they had to add to their arsenal. And what we found is the younger age groups are more excited about using new technologies, but the older age groups are ones that we had to train more, and we had to make sure our support and marketing material is as easy to understand and as usable as possible. And I think in terms of displacement of jobs, we saw during the COVID crisis where the efficiency of human capital is paramount. So whereas before you could send out maybe 4 or 5 senior field technicians, today you can only send out maybe 1 field technician, and the remainder have to be in their homes or in a remote location. So whoever's in the field is wearing a pair of these smart glasses. You're essentially efficiently distributing knowledge capitals where you don't have to have the senior expert in every location. He could be in front of his computer right now, and maybe 12 junior people who are wearing the glasses, and the senior technician could be providing them live remote assistance. So it's not replacing the senior technician, but it's making the distribution of human knowledge more efficient, especially during this current COVID climate where you can't go on site for a lot of field service and healthcare jobs. So I think the ability to market this type of totally new technology in a manner where it doesn't seem threatening and it's also easy to learn for the older generation, and also indicating that it's not going to replace humans, but it's going to complement, it's going to augment humans in their current capacity. And that's what we're seeing. And so far we found a tremendous amount of interest and use cases for AR for helping out different companies. So I think as long as we continue having that positive outlook and making sure material is set in that manner, I think there are positive examples of implementing new technologies.
Think about the market we're in, deploying things in an understandable manner and making human knowledge more efficient, right? Essentially, as we thread the needle through this discussion, one of the reasons I have such deep admiration for all these technologies, and in particular the heavy lift Emmanuel's undertaken, is when you look at disruption in skilled trade services, that business has been around for such a long time, and the skills gap, right, that's been identified in this country, and taking technology, making things more available to the masses, right, and helping to enhance comprehensive project management. Emmanuel, that is a tall task you've undertaken, clearly had a lot of success with it. What are some of the nuggets you would share in ways that Uttrly Group is really altering the landscape for the better and hopefully encouraging more young people to come into the trades as well?
I mean, one of the things that we learned really quickly needed to happen was education. I mean, you have to educate your client base. You have to educate your team. It's constant education and constant coaching. So for us, I mean, even just working with the client, it's like saying, hey, there's a smarter, more efficient way to do things. For example, let's think about during the COVID era, right? I know we're still in it. It doesn't feel like it anymore, right? So, clients saying, hey, I need an estimate for my home because I want to do X, Y, Z. Well, you have an iPhone. Can we do a FaceTime call? Can we do something virtual? So a lot of times people are not used to coming out of that nostalgic way of doing things and saying, hey, let's try to be more forward thinking, right? So it's being able to get those things going by trying to minimize the touch, but also using technology to its full advantage. So for example, like when we did those estimates during those times, being able to capture the videos, being able to capture the pictures, send that in, and then give a comprehensive quote to, like, say, for example, a client, they can then see what is being presented to them, right? But at the same time is also using that technology to also collect data to move forward and say, okay, how can we make this more efficient moving forward? A lot of clients tend to, for example, like we work with a lot of realtors, and realtors like, hey, I need X, Y, Z done, right? A lot of these houses are the same size, the same square footage, and all that. So how can we then utilize data moving forward to try to make sure the things that we are sending to our clients, the things that they are getting is uniform, right? And also educating them how to use the technology piece. When we send a comprehensive quote to our client and everything is coming in online, a lot of times clients are waiting for something to be physical or something in their hand that they can use, hold, and touch. And being able to change that paradigm and saying, hey, everything is now one stop right here on the device, pick and choose XYZ, we can get it done. It's a challenge to try to understand how we can then, from the people who are not operating in that fashion, and understand that, hey, we are trying to operate in this fashion, come with us, take you to like the promised land and sell you a dream.
Well, Emmanuel, the other thing I think you've been solving for is mind reading, because as you were talking about moving forward and utilizing data, I had a quote literally on my screen from Sue's website that says, we keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. And there's a huge emphasis too on your site and your business. And we've had some discussions, I've talked with some of the team members about moving forward. You guys identified clear, complex challenges very early on, especially when it came to testing of very complex things, especially in the satellite space. Maybe from your perspective, and you can use a multitude of examples, what would you like to talk about as how you've pivoted and seen some of the challenges similar to our other panelists?
So, yeah, very similar challenges. And in our industry, a lot of it was, risk of change. We've not done it this way before. We've not, taken these kind of components and tried to fly them in space. And we ended up doing a lot of testing, we actually built programs, to bring our customers in where we were doing proof of concepts, demonstrations, showing them that the new technology was going to work, and, trying to buy down the risk of it not working, of failure. And we see a lot more, previously, because of the cost of launching things in space and satellites, most of them have been, triply redundant and, have so many backups and so forth. And so to move into this era where you're going to launch something a lot smaller, where there might be failure mechanisms, part of that was also educating people that, hey, things might fail, but you're gonna benefit from being able to do it multiple times because the cost is so much less. It's, just the magnitude and the scale of how many things we're launching now is just incredible. And they don't all work the first time. But because, just like the electronic industry, you get refresh rates, every year there's a better, something better come. To be able to take advantage of that in the space industry, you've got to go to, to faster, same kind of thing on that refresh, so that you can take advantage of all the technology that is coming. You can't wait, 5 years to fly the processor that was invented this year. So that whole thing has been a huge education, and part of it is, just commercializing space has been just an incredible thing that we're seeing now, and we're, it's going to continue and give us advantages that, you can only begin to try to imagine what they might be.
And Sue, it's nice that you say that, because kind of what Emmanuel's doing in mapping out this comprehensive program, right? You've kind of put from early on, you've identified management strategies that could be widely used to encourage everything from analysis of certain processes, mapping out workflows, removing steps that don't add value. And this is something I think that can cut across industries and sectors, but it's extremely complex. You talk about Lean Six Sigma and failure rates when you talk about space systems and improving that efficiency there. So, what your company's doing, really, really unique things and a great perspective. And thank you for sharing that with all of us, and kind of rounding out that very intriguing question that always leaves people wanting more, I think. And I think what I'll do now is, we've had a handful of questions come in from the audience. I'd like to pause and maybe really talk about one of you that's popped out at me that's quite intriguing. And I'll start, maybe Emmanuel, if it's all right. I'll kick this one over to you to start, and we'd like to give everybody an opportunity to provide some commentary. The question is, what do you see as the next generation of technology advancements in your respective field? And how are you preparing for it? And what recommendations do you have for folks that are interested in pushing technological advancements? Quite a question. And I'm sure all of you are reading and speaking to so many people and have such a unique perspective. So I'm genuinely, I think we're all curious to hear what you have to say. Maybe we go Emmanuel, Nick, Sue, and David, if that works, and just hear your thoughts on this question.
For the construction industry, I think the next investment is probably, AI, right now, the way we have to innovate the construction world is by creating different processes to try to make things work smoother, more efficiently, kind of back to like what Sue said, right? Like, we have to be able to do things, 5 to 10 times faster than we were, previously, right? So when we can then achieve that, I think the next step is thinking like, okay, how can we then utilize the data that we're currently gathering and use that and try to figure out a way to integrate that with computer learning and compound on that even faster and try to, change the industry in a way where, we can remove the human element of things. So the human element where like you can have a lot of errors, you can have a lot of mistakes, how can we minimize that? I don't think humans will be completely out of any industry, but by trying to minimize the errors that humans do make, I think that's where we can then go into like the next advancement in technology.
Nick, your thoughts to add to Emmanuel's prescient points here? I think Nick.
Sure, so those are great. I think for AR, for augmented reality, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Sorry. So I think for AR, 5G is the main technology that we're really looking forward to. I think for AR, for smart glasses, you're visualizing 3D holograms, you're out in the field somewhere, you're doing live video streaming. Right now, there are some issues with data latency and things like that. And we're testing 5G with the leading telecoms like Verizon, T-Mobile, and we're seeing a tremendous improvement in performance for augmented reality. And I think that's something that can benefit a lot of these industries we're in, field services, healthcare, frontline medics who need to pull up patient information. So we're really looking forward to 5G having a bigger and bigger presence. Right now it's in a few cities, but it's expanding nationwide. And I think that's something that will really help make augmented reality, hands-free smart glasses, have a bigger presence and impact more people. I think 5G is a tremendous step, and it's really tightly packaged together with augmented mixed reality. And when 5G is widely used, that's when we'll start to see even normal consumers probably start wearing smart glasses. So I think 5G is what we're most anticipating, and it's already having a tremendous impact for augmented reality.
Thank you for that, Nick. So AI, augmented reality, 5G, tremendous value. Sue, what do you want to add to some of these buzzwords and critical things that we're all monitoring in the advancement of technological disruption?
Yeah, I think to me it's a lot of integration. I think what we'll be seeing will be a more extensive brought by space. This is going to just change all kinds of things because currently the long haul pipes and so forth that run in and out of a country, or they go up to on a relay. That's going to be quite a bit different if you've got connectivity worldwide. So a lot of those programs that are trying to do that, some of them call it the 3 billion people who don't have any internet. Those are the people that we're going to see served through this. And what that's going to, totally take away borders and so forth because somebody can't stop the satellite from going overhead. So, I think these things are going to be really interesting. And so the integration of all that and being able to pull all that data, I think we'll need data filters for sure. The data will be there. And it'll be a question of being able to make, use out of it. And that's, part of that AI thing also is going to be able to sift through that and see what kind of, and make sure that we solve problems with it.
And so going off of what Nick was saying, I think we're all going to be just fascinated to see what happens in the satellite industry with the networking architecture you and I talked about with 5G and the connectivity, right? The delivery of enhanced mobile broadband and next generation of satellites across the sky. I think it's something that we're all going to be watching closely, and you're certainly going to be on the front end of that and dispersing that information. And please continue to share things with us all as you continue to be involved and have these discussions on, you know, advancements around the satellite space. So thanks for the insight there. I guess, you know, David, to round out this question with your experience and the long list of things, but on the product development side, line of business, new market penetration, you know, today at WorkCentric, but also in the work you've done in the financial services space, how would you round this out and put your thumbprint on this kind of piece that we're all talking about, and it's clearly of high interest to the audience? Yeah,
Great.
It's the new world we're living in.
I just said I'd much rather concentrate on space and VR. That sounds much more interesting than insurance and employment. But I'll concentrate on the second half of that question. To people who are pushing technological advancement and disruption and change, I'd say ask yourself first, why are you doing what you're doing? You can do just about anything you want anymore. People are smart and driven and have access to all sorts of really cool technology, but why are you doing what you're doing? Is there a real need there, or is it just cool? Because ultimately people aren't going to pay for cool, they're going to pay for a need. People bought the iPhone, yeah, because it was cool, but also because it put music in their pocket and a phone and a stopwatch and every other thing. There was a real business reason behind it. And the second is, what are you asking your customer to do with this innovation? Are you asking them to rip and replace an entire system? Are you asking them to turn their business upside down so that they can accommodate your tool? Are you asking for, as Emmanuel has the heaviest lift at the table here, right? He's asking people to do things entirely differently than they've ever been done before. And if you nail it like he has in terms of, okay, this is my job is to educate people, then technological advancement can happen. If you're in a space where it's probably more readily accepted like Nick's is, then your job's easier. You just have to concentrate on delivering exactly the experience that people want. So it's, as we bring all of this stuff to market, it's important to keep in mind, A, why are you doing it? And B, what does it mean for your client?
What and the why, and like you said, coming back to people pay for a need. And there's certainly a lot of needs, very inherent needs, some we hear about and read about on a daily basis. Others are evolving and coming up to speed. When I think about this next question, this is it's a thoughtful question. It's something that is generating a ton of buzz, right? If you think about technological advancements that are happening today, changing in the scope of the current world situation. So let's put some stuff on the table, right? You have a variety of things. The whole climate situation and clean energy is at the forefront. Many of our listeners are being impacted by it today that are living and working in California. You've got education, development, whether it's global public health, social economic development. I mean, where do you all see in your day-to-day businesses? And they all touch various points here. We all have a major role to play. Where do you see technological advancement changing in the scope of this environment we are living in? And everybody is kind of weighing in, and things are just rapid amount of change on a day-to-day basis. Maybe we'll kick off on this one with Nick, if you're okay to start, Nick, and then we'll go Sue, David, and Emmanuel to address this question. I'm very intrigued to hear everybody's thoughts here.
Sure, definitely. And I think we've all seen examples of technology and media, portrayed in media where it's not positive. For example, for augmented reality, the first question people ask when they see this is it going to be like Black Mirror, the Netflix show? So that's something where we want to make a really social impact with our technology. We know that it can have a positive impact. We've seen the positive impact it's having. And a lot of our use cases right now, our internal development for technology is for how it can positively benefit society. So just a couple use cases we're throwing out there. One is for frontline medics, for example, where with augmented reality, they're able to be hands-free and have immediate telehealth, immediate patient records, things like that, that enable them to be safer. And the education side, as you mentioned, the ability to remotely stream a teacher's point of view to hundreds of students worldwide. That's a use case we're seeing right now with a lot of schools shut down, for example, where they're looking for these remote learning situations, and hands-free AR lets students see exactly what a teacher is seeing, for example, for a lab project. So I think from our perspective, from augmented reality side, we really feel that this is going to be a lasting technology. It's not going to be for 5 years or so. I think over the next 5-10 years, it's going to slowly creep into more and more industries. And our goal is to have it benefit each industry it's in and ultimately have a beneficial social impact. We're already seeing that in the healthcare side, in the education side, in other areas where it's giving people who don't have access to knowledge, immediate access to hands-free digital information. So I think we want to continue on that roadmap, and we understand there's some really serious things we have to address, like privacy, how it impacts your ergonomics and things like that. But I think overall, the pros and how it impacts society is what we're really positive about, and we're continuing to come up with more and more use cases, and a lot of our customers and users are coming to us with use cases and ideas for how they think it can impact them and benefit them even more. So we're excited from our side, and we understand that as a disruptive technology, we have a responsibility to benefit society, and we're trying our best to do what we can to help different sectors and people out.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no doubt the COVID environment has streamlined or expedited the need for the third eye technology on the AR, MR side, right? Especially when you talk about the safety of frontline workers, remote learning, and the positive benefits that can be brought to this environment. And you also talk about ESG, right? Environmental sustainable governance, which as David was talking about earlier for his industry, moving to it's a major importance, especially to millennials and younger generations. So it's absolutely vital to take this into account and consideration when you're developing a business plan, a strategy, and scaling. So Sue, your business, you've been involved in your company since, I think you said when we talked 1996, you've seen a lot happen over the last couple of decades. So as we look at this unprecedented black swan situation that really you can't pinpoint it to any particular thing when you talk about COVID. How are you seeing it from that perspective in the current environment in your realm of technological innovation?
I'm not sure about the realm of COVID for satellites, but yeah, I mean, they're,
From a safety standpoint, and maybe consumer travel to get out of here.
But these advances and so forth, are enabling, better weather technology, better weather prediction, and, being able to get information, from over the oceans, which currently we, have very little contact with. You have a boat that goes out or something like that. So, you're able to get kind of a global presence over areas, not just land masses, but over oceans. So, this type of thing is, is helpful for society and helpful for, everybody, for monitoring global warming, when crops, those types of things. We're being able to get a lot more of that kind of data, user data. And, shipping industry still, still needs data associated with the weather and the seas. They're very interested in, getting as much data as they can to keep from, the way they have to change their shipping patterns and so forth. So these are all, integrated technologies or use cases for problem solving, right? If you, when you have a problem. So that's, yes, changed a lot in the last almost 30 years.
I'm heavily involved myself in the green energy space and looking at, how do we have an impact? And there's no doubt, especially satellites in low Earth orbit, the impact, right? They can directly monitor the climate from that position. And it's critical to monitor climate change with miniature sensors and high-speed data transfer and all these things, right? So to learn about that a bit more and the impact it has in real time is very compelling. And I don't think we don't see enough out there on it. There's more coming. And some of these companies like Blue Origin and Tesla and others have generated more interest certainly around it for the mainstream folks. But giving that perspective is really, really good. And I know there's a lot of millennials that are listening into this discussion that are probably on Google right now looking up, trying to see the different disruptions and stuff that's happening in real time in the satellite space to help with some of those social issues I framed up at the beginning too. So thank you for the kind of that synopsis summary, and hopefully we can go a little bit deeper throughout the talk here. So, so Emmanuel, just piggybacking off of Nick and Sue, I guess you have your perspective in terms of the current world situation, and certainly you've been involved heavily in a variety of things that are impacting positive change in the community. Is there one issue in particular, a couple things you wanted to pull up and talk to the group about?
Not particularly. I mean, I just think as leaders in the industry, safety should be paramount to whatever we do. Whether that's, minimizing how much time, our people are spending on the road, how much time we're spending in high touch areas or highly, condensed areas. I think just as a team or as leaders in the industry, just constantly thinking about safety is paramount. And I think that's where we need to kind of start thinking about, as disrupt companies taking a charge and trying to do things in an innovative, new, sexier way, right? Let's also be the leaders of safety as well. That's kind of like my touch on that topic as far as like safety goes.
And safety should be at the cornerstone of any project, any business, right? You have to have, I know working on projects, I've seen it all over the world when I lived and worked in other places, having a safety moment and understanding the situation that you're in. Protecting your workforce, right? The people that go to work and try to have these innovations, folks have to be the first to do something. So safety, I think, is absolutely paramount, whether it's going into space, performing different tasks with AR, MR technology, and certainly when you look at the insurance space, right, David, when you think about safety and security of people, when you build that into your financial models, but also just inherently your own workforce. So I guess, David, having led big teams and seen many things evolve over time, what would your spin on this be for the group?
Sure. I think, Sue said something interesting about problem solving. And so I'm in the employment space. Look at what WorkCentric, you'll figure out that we employ lots of people and we provide them with insurance and benefits and payroll and the like. And this is not a political statement. This is a socioeconomic statement, and it underpins an awful lot of what we try to do. COVID and the Black Lives Matter movement have accelerated the understanding of what's going on in society, which is we have people who make lots and lots of money, and we have people who make very little money. And the people who make very little money have very little access to the things that can help them make lots of money someday. And part of that is the breakdown in the traditional employment system. We call it gig, we call it whatever, but for tens of years, companies have been scaling back what they provide the worker, and the worker has no place to go for any of that. So whether that's credit, whether that's benefits, whether that's 401k, whether that's life insurance, the loss of a primary breadwinner can set a family back 2 generations, particularly a recently immigrated family. So how do we provide these goods and services directly to the worker and make them portable so that that worker has the ability to drive for Uber or go work on a construction site? How do we manage that to solve a problem that's real in society, and how do we make that sustainable, and how do we make money off that? Because frankly, if you don't make money off it, you're not going to be in business long enough to make any change.
And I think, David, to your point, and I think kudos again to what Wyatt and Matt are doing here with Boost Innovation Company, because this is a mechanism, it's a way to garner that kind of support and try to present advantageous opportunities to folks that may not. And in this country, right, there's 50% of students are first generation, in the country. And getting access and getting mentorship and getting guidance is one of the first big things. It's up to all of us to be active in the community and play a very strong role. And the first step is exactly what we're doing here, leveraging technology to provide these keen insights, provide resources, and going, we encourage folks, go on the Boost website and check out the different people that you can get access to and have discussions with at no initial cost to get consultation to have an impact. But it's so much more than that, David, there's no question. What we're trying to do is lay out some roadmap to have a positive impact. And if there's a group that can get groups like this across the country kind of coalescing and coming together, and Zoom and these other technologies will help us get there a little bit quicker, and certainly break down some of the silos that have been inherent for decades that we've seen across the country. But phenomenal points by everybody here. I want to now take one more audience question before we start to wind down with a few other things that we want to discuss here on the panel. This comes from one of the audience members. Here's the question directly. Emmanuel had a valuable assessment on education coaching with new technologies. Since educating is a fundamental part of a new technology success and adoption, but for the businesses that don't have a marketing budget like Apple, which is the same as many of the GDPs of countries in the world out there, and as their market cap today, which is mind-blowing in and of itself, as incredible as Apple is, what are the preferred platforms for educating your ideal marketplace effectively at scale versus on a one-to-one basis with outbound sales efforts? It obviously varies by industry, but curious how you battle for attention for your new technology. And, you know, Emmanuel, since you were called out here directly, maybe we start with you, and it'd be great to get your insight on this one, and then we'll give the other colleagues a chance to weigh in.
I mean, one of the best ways you can reach out to your clients or your client base nowadays is, you know, you can use softwares like MailChimp, HubSpot, you know, you name it, right? Like, I think one of the things that my team does really well, especially when the COVID situation started, I know we'll be using COVID a lot because it's this new phenomenon that we're all dealing with, is that we did a marketing campaign, just kind of letting our clients know, hey, this is what we're gonna be doing moving forward. This is how you can protect yourself. This is how you can protect your family. You know, and I think those are the things that you can do that doesn't really cost that much money. So to kind of say, hey, we don't have Apple's budget to do or run a marketing campaign. I mean, social media, Facebook, Instagram, you know, you name it, right? There's lots of ways you can educate, whether it's a short video, a picture of what not to do. So I remember one of my former employers used to do, it was something funny and comical, right? It was, you know, how not to stand on a forklift, right? and you know, it was funny, but, you know, it resonates. And I think, you know, you can do things nowadays through media, through social media, through marketing campaigns that resonate with people and that can continue to educate, you know, whether, you know, you're touching or reaching out, you know, daily or, you know, once a month or quarterly, right? It will resonate as long as you stay consistent with whatever it is you decide to push forward with.
And Emmanuel, I'm actually so glad you made that point in particular on the campaigns piece, because it truly, again, to what I was just saying, shows the power that you could be a nano or a micro influencer relatively quickly about something that you're passionate about or want to have an impact with all these tools we have. If there's something you want to go after and speak out for and do and have an, you know, and educate people, the platforms are there to do it. And there's, you know, very little cost except your time. And time is a very valuable, it's extremely valuable asset. So I think, you know, for our listeners and the individual that certainly posed that question, that's an exceptional way to address it in a manner that you could start to move forward. I guess, you know, Sue, what would your take be on that in terms of the fundamental concept of education and really just getting out there, right? Battling for attention in this new world. What have you seen that's worked?
Yeah, you know, in the past, it's always been, you know, because we're pretty heavily in the research community, our education is, you know, a lot of times has been at technical presentations or papers that we write, you know, that go into, you know, certain conferences or certain, some of the trade magazines that we have, to be able, you know, to highlight what actually happened or to bring, you know, the new test, you know, or the new concept or and so forth. You know, I've seen because of COVID, you know, all of those, a lot of those conferences shut down and, you know, they're trying to still, you know, do them this way through these Zoom things and through social media. And so this is tremendous. It, you know, it's slightly different. But I think it, you know, I think we'll see more and more of it, which, you know, it's disruptive to the conferences now. So, so it'll be interesting to see after, you know, after we can go to places and all go, you know, meet face to face, how much of that really still goes on, or whether we do more and more things like this.
And to that point, David, I'm very interested to hear your perspective because, with work, especially with WorkCentric being a leader, from an HR platform perspective, right? You're constantly engaging with organizations, groups, and individuals that are looking, they're looking to battle for attention as well, right? Whether that's the attention of folks that are qualified to be part of that company, advertising a particular brand or way of working, what learnings and best practices at WorkCentric and other venues and ventures you've been part of that you could share with the audience.
Sure. First of all, I've never figured it out. I've never figured out how to educate a client base or a prospective client base at scale affordably. Can't figure that out. I've used any number of tools. I find it really hard and really clunky, especially the more complicated what you're selling is, and especially if it's a paradigm shift. So I do everything that Emmanuel's talking about. We do SEO, we do all sorts of speaking on panels and speaking at conventions. We shake hands, we write papers, excuse me, we have blogs, and none of it seems to really drive sales. So if you guys figure it out, please let me know. I think I think it is important, however, to understand that all of the CRM stuff is geared around delivering a message, and it's not geared toward education. So it allows for no response. It allows for no understanding of where the gaps are in your message. You're using a hammer and keep a track of how many people you hit with a hammer. Now that's fine, but until somebody showed me today a business analytics tool that goes online and determines what somebody's been searching for, such that you can go and ask them about it. So in my case, it's PEOs. 200 of the 55,000 companies in this database went and looked for PEOs last week in a way that was substantially more aggressive than they had in the past. Well, there's my 200 people to have my salespeople call for the next week, right? Because I'm engaging in a process where they've already decided they want to be educated. And that's the hardest part. So the more tools we find that can do that, I'm all in.
Yeah, so essentially you're leveraging tools to get you right to the heartbeat, or the tools that are the lifeblood to get you to people that are essentially warm and ready and want to learn. And they're going to be positive about the process, and they're going to look forward and be proactive and want to engage with you and kind of go step to step. And that's not easy, because a lot of it is noise, right? It's
a lot of noise, very little signal.
A lot of noise, very little signal. And we got to get, Nick, coming to you, we got to get that 5G technology up and running to get people connected and clearer to work this forward. But with what you've heard, Nick, from the panelists, anything you want to add to that? You've done a lot of this since graduating, your undergrad, and you've had many experiences, growing your company. And you have to, every day, you're educating people on this new technology and why imploring upon them, why it's almost essential in this COVID environment. What can you share with us, some of your secrets in terms of the education and coaching of this, of ThirdEye and the AR/MR technology?
Sure. So I would say the first thing is, like, you just can't have excuses. Like, if something comes up like COVID, you got to find solutions. You got to figure out a way around that. And one way is like the webinar, like the great one we're doing today. And honestly, a lot of people prefer webinars because they don't have the travel costs of having to go to a show in person. So we're seeing that a lot of our users actually are liking webinars. We're trying to do 2-3 a month now in different industries. So I think finding solutions for problems that come up is a critical part of getting new customers and educating customers. The second part is having a success story and then being able to replicate that. So for example, in healthcare, we had a few hospitals jump on board for our smart glasses, and we did a webinar about that. And then we're now getting interest nationwide, and we're doing case studies and things like that. So I think being able to really succinctly explain like a few key metrics, like this is the amount of time you saved, this is how you improve worker safety, things like that, things that everyone understands, even though this is a totally new technology, but no matter which field you'll understand how that could benefit you. I think that's something that we're seeing is really helping to educate people about how AR, augmented reality smart glasses, is helping different industries and why they should get on board and start a pilot program or whatever use case they want to do. So I think a combination of finding solutions for problems like such as webinars, CRM campaigns, things like that, and also being able to really succinctly explain how a few key metrics, nothing too complex, about how your technology is beneficial and the impact it's making, and being able to actually showcase a new study or a press release or something like that. So that we're coming up with new ideas every day. We have a great marketing team. We're brainstorming new ideas, but those are two examples of methods that have worked so far for us.
Thank you for that, Nick. And it's actually a perfect lead into the final question of the evening, which when you think about succinctly explaining key metrics, success stories, right? Solutions to problems, a lot of the commonalities we've discussed on this panel, and one of the reasons Boost was established, right? When you think about how advisors, like all of us and everybody that's on the Boost platform, right? The Boost platform was set up to establish long-term relationships between advisors and clients to maximize companies' productivity and their ability to move ahead. And a lot of the folks that are seeking out leveraging advisors such as all of you is because they don't maybe have the experience or level of access, and they really want to have these discussions to build success and then replicate it and grow and enhance their brand and their strategic vision. So I guess, David, I'll start with you on this final question. How can us as advisors, right, both within the Boost community and just in the communities we live in, because we're all doing a variety of things, we all serve on different boards and have goodwill missions that we're trying to have impact. How can we make a technological succeed in this business world going forward, right? As advisors, what would be the kind of last key nuggets we could provide to the group on this topic? So David, maybe if you want to lead off on this.
Sure, don't be afraid to tell people a hard truth. Many times it's hard. It's so hard for me. I have younger people coming to me and saying, I have this dream. It's like, that dream's probably not going to work, man. I mean, God bless, but say it, get it out there. And then, if they're still committed, well, you can help, but making sure that everybody understands the hard truth is on the table and dealing with it. That's one. I think two is understanding, especially for young entrepreneurs, the people who build your business and who create your product are not the people who are going to sell your product, nor raise you money, nor run your business for you. I had the last 4 years, venture capital boards, private equity boards have asked me to come in and fix problems. That's what I've done, because people didn't understand the plumbing, how money flows through a company, how to stand up a team, how to communicate with investors, how to make sure that you're legally protected in an unpleasant situation, how to compensate people, how to hire people. It's just, there's a world of skills that are necessary to run a business. Go get yourself a COO who's done this before. And yeah, you're gonna have to pay him a little bit, but it's gonna make you free to focus on what you do best. If I'm in Emmanuel's company, I want him out selling every single day. That's what I want. I don't want him thinking about anything else. I want Sue focused on how do we get these satellites smaller and get more of them up there. That's all I want her thinking about. So figure out how you provide that organization that's going to allow you to do what you really want to do.
Good insight. I think if Emmanuel is out selling constantly without having to focus on all the other things, I would say the NASDAQ's going to get a little frothier. But no, David, and that's, you hit on it. One of the big, don't be afraid to tell a hard truth, critical. But also when you think about advice for young people and looking at starting up businesses as well, there are existing ecosystems of incredible, and we've talked a little bit about this today, you can join and learn some of the ropes as well. But it's important to know the things, know what you don't know, and try to find expertise outside. And eventually, as you seek capital, you're going to get folks on your board and that are going to help to steer your direction. And these companies are very lucky to have someone like you that can come in and help them structure their operations to be more successful, to enhance, again, as I said earlier, to enhance the odds you're going to have success. You're going to need people like yourself coming in. So thank you for that insight, David. I guess that brings us forward. Maybe Sue, from your perspective, again, when you think about what David just said, building your businesses, being a problem solver, what would your take be on this when you think about succeeding in the business world that we're in right now?
Yeah, you know, to advise others on doing this, and, you know, can you do it? And, you know, do you have a good idea? You know, there's always room for to me, there's always room for a better mousetrap, whether it's a technology, disruptor, or whether it's just you're more streamlined and more efficient, and you're using technologies that are really gonna, just change the pace of things. And me, if you think you've got a niche, and and it's gonna work, I think there's always room for a better mousetrap. It doesn't have to be totally new. It can be just good enough, but better than most of the competition. And I think there's a lot of areas like that. We've had people peel off of Millennium and start very successful companies, and we're happy for them. We weren't doing exactly what they wanted to do, and they felt it better if they could go off and continue on, what was a niche for them, what they really thought that they could really be successful at. And it's out there, and there's great people who can give good advice on the stuff that isn't so technical and so forth, because you're going to need that. You're going to need a well-balanced team when you go out on your own.
Yeah, typically, if you can build a better mousetrap, then the world, will beat a path to your door, as was a saying I remember. And it's extremely vital what you said, Sue, right? Thinking about it from a science, engineering, technology perspective, right? Putting and looking at what some of the greatest, physicists, architects, what have you, have been able to accomplish over time, thinking about it from that perspective, and then partnering with leaders, like David, that can come in and help structure things operationally, and bringing in Emmanuel, with the sales side, and Nick with his perspective from a technology advancement, thinking 5 or 10 steps down the field. You put this all together, and you're going to have something that's going to be extremely successful. And I love seeing individuals that branch out from companies and start their own thing. And then you have this ecosystem, and everyone's working well together, because big companies sometimes can struggle to innovate, or they're not as agile as some of these businesses. So keen insights, Stu. Thank you for that. Nick, to you, you've got a very unique perspective, again, because it's not so long ago that you graduated, but you've been growing this company, so you're kind of hearing it from both sides and working across generations. What would your advice be to our audience on this question?
Definitely. I think the main thing is loving what you do. So we had people who joined ThirdEye, for example, who had no experience in AR, really no background in engineering, but they were just really passionate about augmented reality. They saw this as the future and something they wanted to be a part of, and they turned out to be some of our best employees. So I think not just looking at someone's back, but also at their interest level, at their passion level. And that's really about building a strong team culture and building a team that all has a singular goal about what the company should be. And the second thing would be that, especially in the startup stage, you try to have everyone try to do a little bit of everything. And that's something that we quickly learned from, where it's better to have someone who's really good at one thing and just having them solely focus on taking care of that. And that way, everyone can be laser focused on what they're supposed to do. And no one's really spread too thin. I think that's something that we definitely learned and appreciated, and that's helped us out a lot. But I think the main thing is just team culture and really building a team that's really passionate about what your goal is, and making sure everyone's on the same page and trying to add to your team and bringing on more team members like that. And then it just gets better and better, and growth just gets exponential after that. So that's what we found, and we're trying to keep improving. But I think just building a really great team culture is what's critical for, especially us at the moment. That's totally new technology.
And just to plug for the audience too, you talk about that, Nick. I got this advice years ago too, being all over the place, and I got a book called The One Thing. Excellent book, highly encourage people reading, but it's easy to lose focus and be in so many different areas, and you have to stay laser focused, or you risk getting spread too thin and jeopardizing your business, especially if you're a startup. And I guess rounding it out, Emmanuel, will give you the last word on this one. You're living this day to day, day in and day out, right? What you don't have to give away the golden goose, but what would you share from your perspective on this to complement what Nick just said?
Well, for me personally, I have a couple of things I want to touch on when it comes to like starting a business. One of the first things I want to start with is a quote by Steve Jobs. When it comes to starting a business, right? A lot of times people don't know what they really want until you show it to them. So sometimes when you want to start a business, right? You have an idea, you have a vision. I mean, sometimes you just have to show it to people and tell them, hey, look, this is the vision. This is what I want to accomplish. And a lot of people get some pushback, but you then have to make sure that the vision is clear and big. And with that being said, let's talk about building a team and trying to put the team together. One thing I've learned really quickly, and actually we're still learning right now with the team and going through that, is there's 3 different phases of just running the business on a day-to-day. You have the doers. You want to get everybody to the leadership phase of running a business, right? When you first start, everybody's doing, right? You just getting out there, just getting it done, doing the sales, running the projects, being a project manager and whatnot. But at some point, right, you need to hire more people, then you start managing the people that are doing, right? Many people, right, you start to coach, and you start to get a process so that you can be successful. And as a manager of a startup, it's not it's not telling your team what to do. It's more in the sense of taking the lead, being the person in the front line, and showing them how to execute. And then after that, you start to go into the lead phase. As a learner, you have to create the culture of the company. And that's one of the things that will resonate over time. Culture is going to be paramount no matter what. If you have a culture of a company where, whether it's complaining or whether it's not seeing the vision or sticking to the past, that's where a company it stunts the company's growth. So for me, when it comes to like growing a business, you have to gradually work through those different phases and make sure everybody's operating on the leadership mindset and not so much management or on the doer side of things.
And Emmanuel, what's that famous saying? Culture eats strategy for breakfast, which I love. That got ingrained early on. And I would say, just to close out, you made a lot of great points here. We got to hit on this, right? One of the best, you think about doers, managers, and leaders, right? And execution. If you can't execute, you're going to struggle mightily. And I would leave everybody with this too, right? To get to what Emmanuel said, to be a leader, you've got to disrupt yourself. The best project you will ever work on is you, right? And I know we've had discussions about continuous learning and education and meeting people and getting out there. So don't be afraid to network, continue to attend events, ask questions, be bold. This has been an exceptional panel. I wish we always say this after a Boost session, I wish we had more time. David, Sue, Emmanuel, Nick, I want to sincerely thank you all, right? On behalf of Boost Innovation Company, behalf of our audience for taking the time. And I'm hoping we're going to see a lot more of you as we continue to advance and grow and spread the mission of what we're doing. So on that note, I know we're at time. I'm going to bring back Wyatt Wisnowski, the co-founder of Boost, for some closing remarks. So Wyatt, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jason. Boost would like to give a big thank you to all of the panelists and Jason for doing a fantastic job moderating. Thank you everyone for attending Technological Disruptions by Boost Innovation Company. As a reminder, Boost is offering free advisors for a very limited time to celebrate the company's launch. Look through Boost's portfolio of expert advisors at www.boostinco.com. We appreciate everyone being here. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Bye.